Why, hello, hello, hello. This will be good. A review, movie review, called The Sparks Brothers, which is a documentary by Edgar Wright, um, just available on streaming services in the US. So fired up my US iTunes account and hired the documentary and watched it last night. Um, yeah, Edgar Wright. I don't know if you're aware of him. Probably most prominent as director of Spaced, which was a TV sitcom, late 90s. The Cornetto trilogy, Baby Driver, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Don't talk about that one. And yeah, this is a real passion project for him. He's a big fan of Sparks, the band, and the Sparks Brothers, which takes its name from when they were rebranded. They were originally called Half Nelson, and somebody suggested that because they're a fan of the Marx Brothers, they should call themselves the Sparks Brothers because they're two brothers. And they just dropped the and the brothers and called themselves Sparks. So they adopted the Sparks Brothers as a title of this, which is quite well, works quite well. I thought. Yeah, it's a bit of a long one. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. I think it was 2 hours 21 minutes to watch it. So it's a big old beefy documentary, but there is a lot of ground to cover. Again, you it helps if you. It's a bit of a funny one because the Sparks are not well known, but they are well known, if you know what I mean, because they're well known for their one big the hit. This town isn't ain't big enough for the both of us. They're famous for that, but then very often they dip in and out of people's consciousness as they move through the fashions. And this film, like I said, has to cover a lot of ground. There's 25 albums that they've been involved in. So yeah, there's a lot of ground to cover, and there are a lot of people. There's lots of people lending their voices of support, to the brothers. You've got Beck opens it up, Flea, Jonathan Ross himself, Jason Schwartzman, recently from Fargo, Fred Armisen, Neil Gaiman, Jane Wiedlin, who actually appeared with them, and it's Capranos from Franz Ferdinand, among others. There's even a cameo from Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, but you'll have to figure out who they are. Uh, and loads of other musicians waxing lyrical and extolling the virtues of those two Californian brothers. And it charts their childhood in California and their inspirations and how they began. And it's quite detailed. Again, if you like the mystique that surrounds the band, don't watch the film. Again, they do warn you at the beginning. Will you have will you have the mystique blown if you watch it? And you do. There is, but then I knew a lot of the history of the band anyway, because I know everything. That. But I already knew a fair bit about the band before coming to it, and the ups and downs of their career. So because I followed them since I can't remember how long. So yeah, but if you're a layperson, it might be a lot to ingest. It might be a lot to take on because yeah, they've been around a long time. And the one thing you take away from the documentary is they're not quitting, and that's what keeps them going. They do not quit. They are methodical in their working ethos. They work every day. They have their own studio. Well, everyone has a studio now, but they have their own area, and they get together almost on a daily basis to work, and they're continually making music, and I admire that ethos of just continual chipping away, and that's the story because they had their non-success in America. Then they came to the UK, and for a long while, people thought they were a UK band, and very European in their outlook. But again, their influences, if you look at what they do, it is California and Hollywood that a lot of the cultural influences come from. This town ain't big enough for the both of us. It's a line from a movie, isn't it? It's a gangster movie. So yeah, it's fascinating to hear about them and to see the various setbacks. You know, like I said, they started and did well in the UK, and then got more worldwide acclaim, then dipped again, and it's like that. It's a very interesting, undulating. There we go again, undulating story of success and just plugging away. And indifference, there's been a lot of indifference to their music as well. Very hard. Again, I think if you do have a sense of humour in music, and uh, a lot of their songs are almost bittersweet, laced with self-deprecating, bittersweet humour. And again, I don't think a lot of people sometimes get that. This comes across in the interviews and how they refer to each other. But yeah, it's a really, really, really good documentary. I thought I mean, it does what it sets out to achieve and tells the story of Sparks. The only downside is, yeah, it is a bit long. It does dwell on the down periods, probably a bit too much. I could have, I'm not saying gloss over them, but maybe not, dwell so long on on the downward spiral. But again, you get the feeling that it's a real passion project from Edgar Wright. So, I think he must have found it pretty hard to this down to size. I imagine somewhere out there there's like a 4 hour cut or something. Release the 4 hour cut. So yeah, I think for some it might, you might drift off. You may drift off. I'm not saying I didn't because I was invested, but I'm just trying to think what it must be like to people that don't know the band or aren't that interested in them. It could be a bit of a heavy slog. I mean, there are some interesting interstitial interludes with animated characters, and the animator that did the David Bowie Brian Eno Low video, which Adam Buxton, who appears in this, he features throughout. Their animation features throughout, which is pretty cool. So it's a very distinct visual look. And yeah, I mean, it just shows you that if you are, you know, if you are creative, if you are in the business of making music, sometimes you just gotta plug away at it and be dedicated, and and they are a slave to their art, and yeah, it's eye opening. Really is eye opening. They're not your regular band. They're not your regular band. So that comes across, and that you do get a real good overview of of all the albums. There's a good some are skipped over. Plagiarism is kind of skipped over lightly. Um, like I say, other albums are kind of, I think they dwell on a bit too much. But again, it's just me. You know what it is. Fans tend to go, "Oh, you didn't talk about this, and you talked about that." But other than that, I think it's the definitive documentary about Sparks. So yeah, Edgar Wright did a good. He did a good. He did a good job. But yeah, like I said, it helps if you're a fan. It helps if you like the music and they are. And if you don't, and you're coming to this with fresh eyes, yeah, it could be a bit of a marathon for you. But other than that, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was well worth the rather expensive rental cost for it. But hey, I was not going to see this in the cinema, and I'd probably have to wait until, I don't know, later in the year for it to be, digitally available in the UK. So yeah, do check it out when it comes your way. It's called The Sparks Brothers, and I do love a good music documentary. And yeah, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about them, and yeah, fascinating stuff. So, and it's funny too. It's genuinely funny. There's some laugh out loud moments in it, and again, they're not too self-referential, which is great. So do check it out, especially if you're a fan. You're gonna love it to pieces. So yeah, thanks for watching. My name's been Darren Locke. I've been talking about the Sparks Brothers, a new documentary from Edgar Wright, which again details the life and works of Sparks, Russ, and Ron Male. Ron's the older one. Or should I say Ron and Russell Male, as he's the older one. I always think of the singer first. I was getting the wrong around. It's Ron who's hey, what are you going to do about it? Anyway, thank you for watching. There's only one more thing left to say by now. You know what that is, and that is ta-da.